Good afternoon. Welcome back to Three Swords Gaming. Today we're doing another beginner's guide, and this beginner's guide is to gearing up your character as a new player. So I want to be clear up front, this is not a guide for like legendary armor or something like that. I'm not going to go that far into the end game because that's not new player stuff. If you are a new player and you're looking at legendary armor, then you forfeit your claim to being a new player because that's not new player stuff, right? I said it. I stand by it. At some point you cross the threshold from being a new player to not being a new player, and working on legendary gear meets that criteria. So what we are going to cover today is gearing kind of up until that point, which is very, very accessible for virtually anybody in the game. And as you'll note, it is now Winter's Day as of today, which is like Guild Wars 2's Christmas festival celebration thing going on all around us. Good times, I'm sure, for everyone involved. And maybe I'll do a video about holidays, although maybe not. It's not what we're going to be talking about right now. What I want to talk about right now is gearing up. I want to start by addressing something fairly simple very early on in this video, which is gearing before level 80. I firmly believe that your best option gearing before level 80 is to take whatever gear you get on drop, whatever gear you get given to you as like a level up reward or as a story reward, and roll with that. Until you reach level 80, it is not worth spending money to try to get like exactly the right build. So let's take a look at gear real quick here, so that we kind of set the baseline for what we're talking about. So what I'm going to be talking about today is your armor, which is this stuff right here, your weapons, and then your accessories, your rings, your amulet, your back piece, and the 2 accessory slots that are right here. That kind of comprises your gearing in Guild Wars 2. You can kind of go beyond that, but I'm not necessarily going to get into that today and talk about like infusions and stuff like that. Again, that's more like kind of end game stuff. So I chose this character for a reason, and the reason is because this, whenever you buy an expansion, you get a new character slot and you get a level 80 boost. And the level 80 boost hangs out in one of your shared inventory slots. So if you want to free up that shared inventory slot for, say, teleport to friend, which on this count I should have more than 5. The others are probably hanging out in storage. But, let's say I have 40 or 50 of those. I'm going to drop those up here, and that way I can use them on whatever character, right? So I used a level 80 boost on this character, and that gave me Celestial gear. Now, in the past, it's been other stats, but currently when you boost, you get Celestial, which is an even distribution across the entire spectrum of stats. So you can see that plus 63 to all sorts of things there. Let's say that I've reached level 80 and I want to gear my character, or in this case, I want to get something other than Celestial. How do I go about that? Well, the first thing I'm going to recommend is super straightforward, kind of goes without saying, but I do want to show like the cheapest option here, which is you can buy it off the trading post. You can actually buy it really, really cheap. So that's what I want to reinforce. Isn't that the trading post is a novel thing, but just how cheap you can do it, right? And I'm afraid that sometimes new players get caught looking for the wrong thing. So we're going to come over to the trading post here. We're going to select armor. Let's use our little gear here to kind of set what we're looking for. So I would recommend for most classes you aim for damage. And this is like very much... I generally try to avoid being like prescriptive in these videos because I'm not really good enough to tell people what to do. I'm just trying to be helpful. But in this case, I really want to be relatively adamant about this. For about 7 out of the 9 classes, you want to select damage dealing stats. You do not want to select like power, toughness, vitality, which is called soldier's gear in the game. You might feel like you're less likely to die. You might feel protected behind that. But the truth is, it's going to take you a really long time to kill things. You're not doing hardly any damage at all, and it's not going to feel very good. Go with your damage dealing stats, and for 7 out of 9, I recommend Power, Precision, Ferocity, which is called Berserkers in the game. So you'll see we set that as the stats we want. This you can leave as is unless you're shopping for another Toon with this Toon, which we're not going to do here. It doesn't make sense. Select Exotic and set your level for 80, and now you can see what we got. With gearing levels, there's no reason to go below Exotic, which is the second highest gearing level statistically available to you. No reason to go below that because Exotic is so cheap. Now, if you look right here at like this Assassin stuff or the Berserker stuff right here, it's going to look relatively expensive at, you know, that coat being almost 6 gold. Well, that is far too much to pay for that. I don't want you to buy that. The same is true of the Canthan stuff right here. We're going to look for Devona's stuff. So in each weight class, there is a named exotic line of armor for Berserker's gear. And for heavy armor, it's Devona's. I can put in a buy order, or instead of buying directly at the price, I can just put in an order. It's currently at 42.8, so I could just go one more and order it at 42.9, or if I really wanted to insert chaos in the system, I could, you know, put it at 46.15 and unnecessarily pay more because I'm trolling the people below me or whatever. That's fine. I'm not going to tell you how much to pay for it. The point is, at less than 50 silver, this is very cheap. I can gear this entire character at somewhere that's less than 50, so somewhere in the ballpark of 3 to 5 silver max, and probably it's going to be closer to 3 for all my armor. The same thing is going to be true. Real quick before we get into that, let's pull up our gear again. We'll switch this from Revenant to a medium armor class, like Engineer. Oh, I shouldn't have picked a Revenant. Now we have to listen to people talk to us.
So you get smoother instead of
Nika's is the stat line here. I will note medium armor is a little more expensive than heavy armor or light armor because the leather economy in Guild Wars 2 has been out of whack for a vast majority of the time the game has been around, and it shows no signs of changing. So you're going to pay a little bit more for the medium, but still, even the coat, under a gold, right? So let's say 6 gold for all your armor. That's still, my previous video was about making gold. That is still a very reasonable amount of gold. Like, you're going to get that 6 gold. You're going to get that with 36 Astral Acclaim if we go to the Wizard's Vault, right? That's like nothing. That's less than 1 day's of dailies. You got all your armor, just like that. Light armor. Let's take a look at that really quick. What's a light armor class? Mesmer. And it should be Zeds, so it should be all the way at the bottom here. Zed, say it how you want. It's a little bit more expensive than I would have expected. Those boots are actually over a gold. So let's say 6 gold again. And you got all the armor you need. For weapons, my recommendation to you, if you are a new player, get 1 melee weapon and 1 ranged weapon, regardless of your class. Even if you very much prefer to play ranged, carry a melee weapon for the times you can't be ranged, and vice versa. Even if you're a warrior, grab a longbow or grab a rifle, right? So with this character, it would be a hammer, and we can go ahead and where's hammers at? Hammer is actually ranged on Revenant, which is weird, but true. We still have our stat selections here, so I can look, and I'm going to find something. There, that's Berserker stats, under a gold, right? So now I can get a melee weapon, and let's say I went sword. Okay, I'm going to have to buy 2 swords. So the Spindrift weapons are super cheap. They should pop up here. Yeah, look at that. Under 28 silver each. 56 silver, I get 2 swords. Or it's so cheap I can go ahead and buy a couple right away. I'm still under a gold. So now I have my weapons and my armor. Now for my accessories, yes, if you hit the trading post, you're going to pay a bit more. I'm not even going to address that right now because I want to jump to the very next level. And I want to talk about Ascended Gear. So, Ascended Gear is the highest. You know what? Let's put some clothes back on. We're going to run to Lion's Arch real quick. And actually, we could do this here. In fact, you know what? We'll do it here. We don't even need to go to Lion's Arch. Oh. Before we talk about Ascended, though, we do have one more stop to make. And one more thing to address. So there are a couple classes Elementalist for sure, and maybe Guardian, depending on how good you are at Guardian. I'm terrible at it. Where Berserker's gear may not be your choice. There is another stat line called Marauders that gives you some vitality in addition to power, precision, ferocity. That might be a better choice for you if you have trouble staying alive with Berserker's gear, and really with any class, that is still a good choice. However, if we go to the trading post and take a look at Marauders, which I always misspell, but I think it's like that. Yeah, there we go. That armor is considerably more. So let's set it for Revenant, level 80. Alright, there we go. You see, it only comes in this draconic skin, which is crafted, not dropped by enemies, and as a result, it costs significantly more. So even the buy price is significantly lower, or significantly higher, never mind that sell price, right? Do not recommend this at all. Instead, you got a couple options for stat selectable armor, which is going to require some gameplay, but is still significantly cheaper. One is in World vs. World. Now, obviously, this would require you to play World vs. World. You can come over to this guy, Ted? Let's call him Ted. -07, the Unified Vendor System. Chat with him, and he's going to make this armor available to you at a very low price, but also at the cost of Badges of Honor, which is a currency you get in World vs. World when you kill enemies or achieve certain objectives. So you're going to need a gen up what looks to be about 125, 175, 250, 350, 400 Badges of Honor, but then less than 6 gold, and you have stat selectable armor, which means you can choose Marauders if you want. Or you can choose, what is the other stat line that's very close to Marauders? I believe it's Dragons. Will also give you some vitality along with power, precision, ferocity. So I would recommend one of those two if you're going this road. Finally, there's one other spot where, oh, yeah, I don't have that on this account. I mean, I do, I just don't have it activated right now. What a weird thing. Shows you how much I play World vs. World. Where's my War Cat? Warclaw Mastery. There. Ooh, and it's so slow. Let's go back into Lion's Arch real quick. There's one other place where the acquisition for stat selectable armor is very easy for 5 out of the 6 pieces, and that's in Verdant Brink. So this would require you to have the Heart of Thorns expansion, but I'll be honest, I make all these videos kind of working off the assumption that people at least have some paid content, at least have Heart of Thorns, and probably Pathfire and Heart of Thorns, because you can buy the two together for like 15 or 20 bucks. It's like practically nothing. And yeah, I get it. There are places in the world where 15, 20 bucks has some cost associated with it. Like that means more in some places than others. But if you're already gaming on a PC, I'll be honest, man, I don't want to hear it. Like, you're able to afford a PC. If you want to play the game, I don't think 15, 20 bucks is that much. Alright, Verdant Brink over here. You can generate a map currency, which this character hasn't been there yet. Called, let's pull it up real quick here, because undoubtedly I have some. There it is, airship parts. So you can exchange these airship parts for stat selectable currency at the merchant right there by the entrance, the frog guy who's right there by the entrance of Verdant Brink, and again, stat selectable armor. The only catch there is the chest piece is not available from the merchant. You have to get that through the meta event there in, you know, with actual gameplay. And of course, you're going to need some actual gameplay to generate those airship parts as well. So a couple options that will require gameplay for you, but will again give you exotic armor very cheaply, and in those two cases give you armor where you can choose the stats. To emphasize, please resist the urge to get stats that are heavy on toughness, vitality, or unless you specifically want to play support, healing power is not going to really help you with your sustain nearly as much as actually killing the enemy will. If you want to survive an encounter, doing damage is still going to take you a lot further than healing power will, particularly if you're a warrior or whatever. That's just kind of silly. Alright, so let's talk about Ascended. Ascended is the next step up from Exotic and is the highest, mathematically in terms of stats, it's the highest gear level. Yes, there is legendary armor and legendary trinkets and so forth, legendary weapons. Those things have the same stats as Ascended. The difference is, A, their cosmetics are better, and B, you get the quality of life of being able to choose which stat lines you want to use at any given time. So you could just swap on the fly. And that's really nice. But for a new player, with Ascended being so accessible, go for Ascended, and then you can have a stretch goal of Legendary if you want. But within days of getting in the game, you can start looking at how to get the highest stat level available very easily. So let's start with the Wizard's Vault here, right? Because there are two things I want to show. One, oh, not that, although that's relevant. So on this count, I haven't bought these for this iteration yet. I got like a month, 6 weeks, whatever to do it before the next DLC rolls around, which is more than adequate time considering there's a bunch of like Christmas things here, and the Christmas event just started today, and there's still stuff with VOE that I can easily get. I have time to get several thousand Astral Claim without any difficulty. So the 1200 plus 600, 1800 Astral Claim that it's going to take to get 3 pieces of armor and 1 weapon is very, very low. So assuming that every 3 months DLC rolls around, 3 months and 1 week, 3 months, 2 weeks is all it's going to take you, because you can carry a large amount of Astral Acclaim from one season or one phase of the Wizard's Vault to another. So you can buy these things, and you can bank some Astral Acclaim, keep this close to 1300, and roll right into the next season of Wizard's Vault after the new DLC, and immediately buy 3 more pieces of armor. So 1800 Astral Acclaim right there, 3 pieces of armor at the highest level in the game, and 1 weapon at the highest level in the game. And I think I already have multiple of those boxes sitting in my bank, so I could get this character all the armor and weapons she needed basically immediately at Ascended level. What about the trinkets? My personal recommendation, there are a number of options, but my personal recommendation for a brand new player, let's come back to the Wizard's Vault for a second. Another thing that's available to us is 150 laurels right off the bat. Again, in one 3-month period, I can get 150 laurels. What does that translate to? Well, if I come over here, it translates to 1 amulet, 2 rings, that puts me at 100 laurels spent, and 1 accessory. So in a 3-month period, I'll fall just shy of completing all that, and of course I won't have a back piece, but most of this can be filled in one 3-month period of time with Ascended. And then I can circle around, get 1 more Ascended accessory with the next 3-month period of time. So in several videos now, I've talked about the value of Wizard's Vault. This really was a game changer for everyone in Guild Wars 2, but more than anyone for new players, because it makes so much accessible, whether it's leveling, whether it's gold, whether it's Ascended gear. It makes things accessible immediately to them. And then when they start looking at Legendary, there you go. Every 3 months I can get 20 Mystic Clovers, which are necessary for crafting Legendaries, from the Wizard's Vault as well. So it's all there in the Wizard's Vault for you. Oh, and when you get to Legendaries, there's this for you too. So Guild Wars 2 handed all players, from new players to veteran players, the means to get whatever they want very quickly if they just apply themselves to some fairly simple tasks and go after it. So let's say that for whatever reason you don't get laurels, you haven't,
Thank you.
in the past, whatever. My next recommendation, I'm actually going to switch tunes for this part of it, because I want to be able to actually show this. And you know what? On our way, we'll look at the bladed armor and Vernbrink as well, since I've switched tunes. All right, we're going to spend all kinds of money on waypointing. It's going to be incredibly expensive. Let's see. Probably like 9 or 10 silver. It's only 6. That's not that bad. Alright. So on our way to what I want to look at,
Wow,
we'll talk to this
that's
guy real
quality
quick.
armor. Thank you
It
so
is
much.
quality armor. So there you go. There's 5 out of the 6 pieces of stat selectable armor that I talked about earlier. 1 gold. Yeah, 500 airship parts, which is a decent chunk. In fact, right now, on this account, I wouldn't be able to get all 6 pieces of armor. Just know that that's available to you as an option.
Goodbye.
All right. For those ascended trinkets, to include back pieces, so not just trinkets, but all the ascended things other than armor and weapons, which I think it's that waypoint. This is a Season 3 map. Now, you can do this a little bit in Season 4, but my personal opinion, Season 3 is the best for this. Yes, that does... Oh, I picked the wrong waypoint. Yes, that does mean buying some more content. And now it starts piling up, right? Because I said buy Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire, and now I'm saying buy Season 3, and suddenly it sounds like I'm saying, hey, you need to buy all the content. But I want to make clear that this is one of the best options for Ascended gear to be available to you. Throughout Season 3, they made Ascended trinkets very readily accessible through the map currencies. So here we see Blood Ruby Band, 100 of the map currency, and then 2,000 Unbound Magic. Heck, do I have an Ascended ring on this character? I think I already do. Yeah, I do. Yeah, those are fine. Whatever, I've... everything except the back piece. I think this guy has a back piece, though, doesn't he? Yeah. Hey, you know what? Why not? Blood Ruby back piece. There we go. It's that easy, right? Now, yes, I had farmed some of those things. But truthfully, on this account, I've never farmed this map. That was gathered while we were playing through the story and so forth. So now, that one piece that wasn't ascended, and let's see, is everything else that she's got? She could use weapons. Okay. Now it is, right? You can see it's not even, it doesn't even have a stat right now. We get to select, and wow, we got options, don't we? In fact, I mentioned Marauders earlier. There's Marauders. Power, Precision, and then slightly lower Vitality, Ferocity. Is Dragons on here as well? I had mentioned Dragons. There it is. So with Dragons, you see that Power and Ferocity are the high ones. Precision and Vitality are the low ones. Given those two choices, I would lean towards Marauders, personally. But far be it for me to tell you what to do. In this case, I'm going to go with... I could also go with Berserkers and Valkyrie, which is a really rare thing. You don't see that very much at all. You can see a really weird combination of stats. We're just going to go with Berserkers. So. And there we go. It's that easy, right? So that is the option. Now, the original method of getting most ascended was to craft it. And certainly that's an option that's on the table for you. I'm not going to tell you not to go down that road. Just know that it is both expensive and time-consuming. And time-consuming because it's expensive and because you got to go through all the crafting. So if I had a choice, and on my main account, much of my Ascended was obtained through the Living World Season 3, Living World Season 4. I have full Ascended on almost one character in every class, and a lot of that was done through Season 3. Now, I will point out really quickly that Fractals are also a very, very viable method for going after Ascended. And if you're a player who's diving, as a new player, you're jumping headlong into the game and you're trying to get into the end game content, and you've chosen Fractals as the end game content that you enjoy, which is a great choice. If you like group instance content, I think Fractals are a really, really strong choice. One of the things I like about Fractals is there's a tremendous range, starting with the easy Tier 1 Fractals, which would be things like Volcanic, Snowblind is very easy, Swampland is very easy. A lot of these are Aquatic is, most players can probably solo Aquatic, if they're experienced players. So super easy down here, up to genuine challenge when you start getting into. I hate Sunqua Peak, and at level 98, it is rough, right? For me, because I suck. So you have this huge range in difficulty, and you can gradually work up and work through it. And in my 0 to 0 playthrough, we did that, right? We made it a goal to reach a certain level in Fractals. But I also want to point out, and I'll be honest, like I don't even remember which of these merchants it is, but there is yeah, here we go. So by earning fractal currencies, you can get ascended gear like very cheap. There's a whole bunch of weapons via fractals as well. You're also going to get a lot of ascended stuff as you get into the higher level of fractals via drops. So if this is the option you want to go, and this is an option that a lot of people recommend, is to go fractals to get their ascended. By all means, go that route. Just understand that with the introduction of the Wizard's Vault, that's not actually your fastest method. Your fastest method is straight up buy it from the vault. You do what you see best. When talking about ascended gear, one of the other things to note, I said I wasn't going to go into infusions, but since we're talking about fractals, it is important to note fractals have a mechanic called agony, and you can come over here to the little simulator, and actually we're at too high level. It'll kill me right now. Well, let's let it kill us. So you can see the agony very rapidly just crushed me because I do not have the prerequisite agony resistance for a level 37 fractal on this particular player or character. On my main account, I'm good on agony resistance, but for this character, I am not. So I would want to acquire more of that. The agony resistance itself, you can earn through fractals, or you can just buy it off Trading Post if you want to pay the gold for it. That will drop into the infusion slots on your armor. If you have ascended weapons, you can drop it there. You can see there's an infusion slot on this. There's another conversation about like the infusion slots on rings and how you can add more on your trinkets to where you can have like 3 infusion slots, I think, on your trinkets, if I remember correctly. It's been a minute now since I've added infusion to a character because I always play fractals on the same character on my main account, but at a level above 25 at least. But certainly, you throw +9s on your 6 pieces here, and in fact, we have that on. We did 0 to 0 on this count. Like we have that on another character. And you're good to go with fractals. So fractals are your game mode of choice. You're going to want to get ascended anyway, and you're going to want to throw some. Where do we have it all? There it is. +9 there, +9 there, there. What do we got? 45. Where's the last 5? Oh, it's on the back piece. All right, so we're actually relatively low. We got 45. Ideally, you'd get over 100 for playing like through the first 3 tiers at least. On this character, we don't have that. I think we got 45 because that'll get us through the first 2 tiers, something like that. But you're going to want to pursue Ascended. I would still recommend getting it from the Wizard's Vault first, and then at least a couple pieces. Throw in some infusions on that. That way you can play beyond the first 5 to 10 fractals. You can get into fractal level 15, 20, 25, get through tier 1, and then you can start adding those ascended pieces. Okay, as with all my videos, I've run almost half an hour to say things that truthfully could have been said in about 5-10 minutes. So I am going to cut it off here. Just kind of wrap things up. You within like the day you make level 80, you should get level 80 named exotic armor and level 80 exotic weapons, and that should cost you less than 10 gold. The easiest way is just straight buy it from the trading post. You can buy trinkets if you want, but at that point you might as well start looking into going straight to ascended trinkets, and then you can follow up with ascended armor and ascended weapons. Wizard's Vault is by far the easiest way to do that, but you do have some other options such as laurels for your trinkets. Well, in fact, you're going to need to use laurels for the trinkets. Season 3 is another option. Fractals is another option. I think that covers everything. Thank you for hanging out with me, and we will be back with another video in a couple days, probably covering the wardrobe system. I actually been meaning to get around to that. Thank you, and you have a good one.